images with cosmetic retouching. So we've got a lot to learn today, but it's gonna be a lot more fun as we continue through our lessons as well. Okay, now perfect. I am going to just very quickly jump in here, folks, and we're going to start today's lesson off with our Photoshop tools. So to kind of get you all interacting with myself, folks, and again, it'll help me understand the different level of students that I have on the course. If you've ever used Photoshop before, let me know. But do let me know what you think your favorite tool is, so that way I know what to emphasize on for others as well. So just a quick type into the chat box for myself. What we're going to be dealing with today, folks, is the actual tools itself in a quick rush, because we'll be dealing with practically every tool within our lessons. So as we go forward, whatever tools we use today, we'll be using again and again and again. So if you don't get a specific tool seen today, of course we're going to use it in our later lessons, okay? Because they all have a specific purpose. We're also going to look at the different properties and the options that come with each tool, rather than just being a very plain tool. Also, I suppose before we move on, every different tool comes with a different shortcut, something that would really help you speed up your workflow with Photoshop, okay? And all of these shortcuts are literally at your fingertips, literally because they are on the keyboard. So it'll help you to kind of memorize the more important ones depending on what you are trying to get out of Photoshop, okay? I will be talking shortcuts throughout the entire course. I will be saying what they are again and again and again. So by the end of it, you'll probably be sick of hearing about it. But here is a quick glance at the toolbar, all of the tools and their names and their subcategory tools that are within them, and the shortcuts that you might need. So with that in mind, again, folks, keep in mind that this slide you are able to download and keep. It's yours, so if you're ever wondering what shortcuts you need to use, you have this slide, which is available in the toolkit, and in the starter pack, which is free to everybody, you will be able to download the Photoshop shortcuts, which I 100% recommend as well. Okay. Now, I suppose looking at this again, folks, what kind of tools are you most excited to learn about? I can already see that Ed has no favorites, but does believe in selection tools are something they'd like to master. So selection tools, folks, are lesson 5 and 6. Okay, so something nice to look at. Few people are saying they're amateurs, very limited with Photoshop. Some people are their specific ones. John is looking for the clone stamp. Shiraz is looking to master the eraser tool. And Shiraz, I will be explaining that in today's lesson, that we will not be using the eraser tool because it is a tool that I don't believe should be in Photoshop, because it's a destructive tool. It damages your images. And I will teach you a way to do everything that the eraser will do with masking. So that way we never have to damage our images, okay? So the eraser, folks, if you're a fan of the eraser tool, forget about it. In a professional manner, the eraser tool would never be used, unless it has to be. Clone stamp coming in there from John as well. I can see pen tool. We have the brushes, spot healing, but don't worry about that. Spot healing will be covered a lot in lesson 7. Lasso tool, again, that's a selection tool. And yeah, a lot of people seem to be interested in the brushes, so maybe we'll try get the brush tool out today, folks, as well. So this is how today is going to work. I'm going to show you some tools on the actual slides here. Then we're going to open up Photoshop and we're going to get a free-for-all, everybody typing in. Serena's looking for cropping. Don't worry about that. We'll try cover that today as well. But yeah, so folks, this is where it's going to go. We're going to do a free-for-all. So kind of a few minutes on each section here of the toolbar. And I will demonstrate whatever I can within the time that we have today. And obviously I want to keep some time for workspaces as well. So nice and interactive lesson today, okay? So obviously, folks, we have our move tool. The shortcut is Phi on your keyboard, okay? Sticking with a normal QWERTY keyboard, folks. So if your first lot of keys up top are Q, W, E, or T, Y, QWERTY, which is a standard European keyboard, but this is what I'm sticking with. But it is the standard in most countries, unless you have like a Spanish or French. Then you'll have to understand that some of the tools might change, but majority of them will be the same. So move tool is Phi, and folks, it does exactly what you might think. It's used for moving specific images in your actual layers, which we'll look at in lesson 4. It's used for moving your selections that we will make with our selection tools. For transforming your images, for making them bigger or smaller or skinnier or anything like that, it is a move tool and it's used to move objects. Then we will move on to our Marquee Tool. So the Marquee Tool, folks, is a selection tool. Again, the highlight of this is going to be lesson 5, where we look at all of our selection tools and we refine them in lesson 6, our composites. Again, it's used for making basic shape selections. So we can make rectangles, we can make circles, we can make squares, we can do singular rows, or we can make kind of elliptical shapes as well. And the shortcut is M. Easy way to remember is the Marquee Tool, M. Our lasso tool, another selection tool, but rather than basic shapes, it works on a free form style. So when I say free form, I mean that we pretty much just draw as if we were using a pen in our hand. With the mouse, you use your cursor, you just select one area, and you can just draw any shape you want, and then until you let go of the mouse. So it's a free form selection tool for selecting very quick selections. And there is a subcategory of a polygonal and a magnetic lasso tool, which we will look at again, folks, as we go through our selections. Magic Wand and Quick Selection Tool. So the Magic Wand tool has been in Photoshop for a long time. It is a selection tool that is used for selecting specific colors in our images. So if I want to find a specific blue shade in my image and I use the Magic Wand tool, it will allow us to pick up on everything in that image that is the same shade of blue, if that makes sense for everyone. The Quick Selection tool, folks, is only in the kind of newer versions, so not everybody will have it if you're using the older versions of Photoshop. I do believe you need at least CS5, I think, possibly going forward for Quick Selection tool. And hopefully you do have that kind of version, because the Quick Selection tool is an amazing tool. Again, the shortcut for both of these tools is W, which means that if we press W once, we will select Magic Wand or the previous tool that you used. If you press it again, it will only go back to Magic Wand. So you need to use the Shift key on your keyboard and press W to cycle through them quickly. Again, keep in mind shortcuts are going to make your life quite nice. Okay? And then finally on, folks, we're going to move on to our crop tool. Use to crop our images. We can do this in our phones. We can do this with pretty much every software. But I actually will demonstrate this tool in a second, because I have a lovely option that I will think will amaze people with the crop tool that makes it different in Photoshop. So, folks, free for all. Just type in here what tools you want to see, and we'll jump into Photoshop. I will open up some images while we're talking. So I suppose we can go with this image here. So the Cliffs of Moher, folks, from Ireland, down in County Clare. Lovely spot. And this is what we're going to work, okay? I'll definitely show off the crop tool, because I can see that people are asking for the crop tool straight away. Magic Wand, absolutely not a problem. So our Magic Wand, the shortcut is W. But it's in here, Magic Wand. So again, if I choose a shade of blue in here, you will see it will try pick up on all of the different blues in this image. If I come over and choose the greens, it will basically choose all of the kind of greens in the image as well. So we've made a really crazy selection. And we can do whatever we want with that later on when we learn how to do our adjustments. We will learn how to change the colors. If you wanted to make this specific section of the thing black and white like we were looking at, we can come in here and make it black and white. I don't know why you would, but it is possible. That's the whole idea of our selection tools, folks, which is the main focus. We do a full lesson on this, so we do the full 45-50 minutes of content on this anyway. So you'll learn your selections in depth. Okay, let me see. Crop tool. Okay, yeah, no, everyone seems to be looking for the crop tool, folks, so bear with me. Crop tool is quite amazing, and although the crop tool in its most basic kind of style is what you might expect, it is literally just the crop tool, okay? We can change how our images look. So we can cut out parts. We can crop it so it looks something like this, okay? Be more dynamic. You can change the picture to any size that you want. What I like about the crop tool in Photoshop, folks, is that we can use it to straighten our images. So again, something that you might be familiar with in any kind of software that you've used before, but we can highlight the outer side of this image, and you can see that it changes how our cursor looks. okay, allowing us to straighten this image. So I've took this image quite badly. So I can straighten it, hit OK, and maybe we still need to straighten the horizon line here. So we'll try and match it up. And we can straighten the horizon line, okay? With the little bits that are missing, we would just crop in and we would fix our image. Now, that might seem quite basic for you, and I completely understand that. But there's obviously quicker ways to do it. So we're just going to jump back to our image. We can use the straighten tool from up top here in Photoshop. Now, this is only in the newer version of Photoshop. It's also available in Lightroom for anyone who's ever used it like that. So if you have to use it the old way, you just basically rotate it. Other than that, we use the straighten tool, which we can just click with our mouse, drag, and then it'll do it for us. And we can just straighten the horizon line very, very easily. Now, again, folks, that's actually not what I wanted to show with the power of the crop tool. I wanted to show off something that we call the content-aware crop. Okay, and once again, it's quite nice because it's in the newer versions, but I will show it off because I think it'll make some people say, wow, okay, for anyone who's never seen it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our delete cropped pixels. I'm going to straighten our image. Oh, I do not have my straighten tool on. We're going to straighten our image. And we're going to hit OK. This has deleted everything outside, meaning that I can no longer go back to the way it was. Okay? I'm just going to move everything up here, folks. And we have our layers turned on. Okay. Now, with our crop tool, folks, I hope you enjoyed this because I think it's quite fun. If I turn on content aware, something that the content aware family was introduced in 2011 with CS5, and it's only gotten better. But if I use this, folks, what we'll do, maybe we want to add more sky in. With content aware turned on, if I crop outwards instead of inwards and I hit OK, Photoshop will do all of the thinking for us and actually add in extra sky. Has everybody seen how that's done? So maybe I'll go the opposite way. Maybe we'll go and we'll add a bit of more sky and a bit more cloud in. So this is empty at the moment, as we can see, but the content aware tool will actually fill in this area for us. And we now have more sea, we have more clouds, and we have more sky. And Denise is in there with a wow, which is what I expected, folks. So again, I suppose what we'll do is I'll demonstrate it on this image here. So we have an image of a girl, very plain background. If I wanted to give this girl a bit more space, with the crop tool, what I would do is I'd hold Alt, okay, because that will make me go from the kind of sides. Actually, instead, I'll go out this way, okay? So we'll go out this way, and we'll crop, and we'll hit OK. And what's green here won't be green. Instead, it'll be the background once it crops in. So you see how we've added that background in? So we will crop with content aware turned on. Crop out. Hit OK. And this will add background in for us. Now, it's gone and made the girl again, which is, again, sometimes it can be unpredictable. Not exactly what we wanted, but the joys of it is in small batches. So maybe one more time, folks, because I understand it's only in the newer version of Photoshop, but it just shows how easy life can be for us. So with an image like this, again, we can kind of just crop out, hit OK, and add some more water in here to our image. You can kind of see a bit of a bump there where it is cropping it, but it's a very easy way for adding more sun, more sky, more grass, anything that needs to be kind of done in your images. Like so. So a quite nice tool to learn how to understand. And again, keep in mind, it not only just crops your images, that it can be quite mind-blowing. It's not in CS6, Jordan, but in Lesson 5, I will show you how to do something like this if you do not have the content aware option just yet. But it is in the CS CC 2015.5 is when it came in, so it's about a year and a half in Photoshop at this point. Okay, perfect. So again, folks, just going to jump back in here and we're going to do, because we have a few more tools that we're going to look at. So covered in lesson 5 and 6, just because I didn't get to do it there, folks. Marquee Tool, Lasso, Magic Wand, and Quick Selection Tool, okay? Now, so that's basically our selection tools. So folks, here we have our eyedropper, samples colors, so we can change colors very quickly. We have our healing tools, which is basically the full focus of lesson 7. We've already seen our spot healing tool and how powerful it is in lesson 1. But there is other tools all hidden under the healing tools here, folks. Your healing tool, patch tool, content aware move, which is in CS5 and up, and the red eye tool, which is in all versions of Photoshop. We have our brush tool, which is basically used for digital coloring, but it does a lot more, folks, once you learn how to use Photoshop. We can use it for masking, which means that we don't need to use our eraser tool. It is used for a lot more, basically, folks, for quick selections. It's used for a lot. We have our clone stamp tool, which does what you might think. It clones a specific area and it stamps it wherever you want. So just think of those two words. So basically it replicates an area and places it somewhere else. And we have our history brush, which we can use for basically undoing or stepping back. So a tool I don't use too often, because I basically will just undo with Control-Z or Command-Z if you're on a Mac. How does the eyedropper and magic wand differ? Well, again, folks, we're going to go free for all here, so feel free to type in. And Janet, I'll cover that for you straight away, I suppose. So what we're going to do is we're going to... I'll actually go to new instead of open. And this will give me a box that looks like this. And it'll allow me to fill in specific parameters so I can make a specific page. So I'm going to go for an A4 page. Okay, this will all be addressed in later lessons, folks. But we're going to turn on an A4 page, 210 by 297 millimeters. I'm going to make it landscape, just this icon here. And we're going to basically just hit create. So you can see, rather than having a colored image, we just have a white background to work on. So let's deal with our eyedropper tool, because that was the first one that came out. Obviously, shortcut, folks, is eye, and the eyedropper tool is just here. And as you can see, I have a black and white color to work with. If I want to change this in my toolbar, I would double click and I get what's called our color picker. So I can choose whatever color I want and hit OK. And now I have a red and white. If I wanted to sample a specific color from this image, I would use my eyedropper. So if I wanted to find this nice light blue shade here, I would click and my blue shade is now here. So again, if I wanted to find the kind of green shade of this grass, I can just click and I've now got the green and blue here instead. The exact parameters will come up, the web code will come up for it, for the actual hashtag for it, the HSB, the RGB, all in it, folks. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit OK and we're going to demonstrate, let me see, Control-Z is undo, folks. Again, edit and just step back or undo. You can see that it's just a way of, if you make a mistake, of undoing. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the brush tool because I can see that's coming in a lot there from everybody. So folks, brush tool, quite a fun one. The shortcut is B. I will just find a normal brush tool in here. So we have just a standard brush and it's quite big. Now this will actually paint in that green color that we were kind of selected, or I can change it to the blue because these are the ones that I picked it with the eyedropper. What we see here, folks, is what we call a hard brush. So you can see that basically it looks like I'm stamping loads of little circles on top. That's basically what I'm doing. But if you hold your mouse down, it does it very fast for you. But this is what we call a hard brush. And the brush tool can be changed a lot. There's a lot we can do with it. So very quickly I can come in here and I can change the size of the brush to have it smaller. I can change the hardness. So it is, say, we put it at about 50%, and we can see the difference in there. If I basically come back in and I change the hardness right down, we can see the difference in here as well. if I basically go and up the brush so we can see the size of it, folks, can you see how this is all bristly in terms of the other brushes here? This is our soft brush. Now there is a lot more we can do with brushes, and there's a lot of things that we can kind of turn on with our brushes at all times, folks. I do a full lesson on the advanced, but I want you to play around with it yourself so you understand what's going on. But that's our soft brush, okay? And then we have our hard brush in here as well. So the difference between them. And there's an in-between, of course, if you play around with the sliders. It will work with your bamboo stylus, Scott. It will indeed, and any sort of Wacom tablet as well. All of these icons up here are specifically for your pen tabs. I'm using a mouse though, because not everyone's going to have one of them. So with the brush tool, again, folks, if you want to change the style of it, you just change the angle and the shape of the tool. You can change the color in here, so we go for a kind of red so it stands out, and you can see how that is different. So that's a hard brush in here as red at a different angle. We make it soft, and we've got our soft red brush. And again, folks, what we'll do is we'll put a black, reset it back to black and white, which is just by hitting this little icon here. And I'm just going to very quickly demonstrate something that I do in the advanced, which is our custom brushes, where we can download very easy to use brushes that will allow us to do very quick stamps like this. I have loads of them installed in my Photoshop here. So again, you can kind of see what I'm working with here. So the brush tool is not just a very simple tool. There's a lot to it, folks. It's a very complex tool that we have a lot to use it with. Okay? So Tanmay, yeah, you can. That's how you will make scatter brushes. I do a full lesson on it in the advanced. I wouldn't have enough time to show you now, but do email myself over if you want some extra kind of help with it. Okay, perfect. Before I move on, folks, there's a few people asking me to show the clone stamp tools. That's absolutely not a problem at all. Just before we move on, so this will be covered in lesson 7, folks. Clone stamp tool. But basically, what you want to do is hold Alt or Option till your cursor changes to look like this. Select a specific area. So we're going to select this bush here. Okay. And if I move, you can see that I have the selected area here. So there's my bush. There's the area I selected. So I can come in here and I can just start stamping. Oh, opacity is right down. But I can come in and start stamping extra bushes into my image here. Looks a bit tacky, but you get the idea that with enough time we can kind of fix how we want it to look. So that's the clone stamp tool. It selects an area and then we stamp whatever kind of into the image that we want. And it works like a brush, so there is a hardness and a softness that can be brought into it. So keep that in mind. Okay. Now, back to our slides, folks, here. Oh yeah, folks, in lesson 7 we're going to be dealing with the healing tools, the clone stamp tool, magic wand, quick selection will be back again in lesson 7, so we're going to get to look at these tools a lot. Okay, now we have our eraser tool, folks, something that I do not use professionally because it deletes what we call pixels. So basically it deletes your image. When we learn masking in lesson 4, you will understand a better way that we will never have to use our eraser tool again. So to basically sum that up, what I would say is that eraser tool is a bad tool. That's what I'm gonna sum it up to. Gradient tool and paint bucket. Anyone who's ever used Microsoft Paint before, basically the paint bucket is for filling specific areas very quickly. The gradient tool will place a gradient, so from black to white or red to green. It'll make a gradient for you. We have our blur, sharpen and smudge tool, which does not have a shortcut, as we can see here, folks, and they do exactly what you might think. They do what they say. The blur tool will blur specific parts of your image. It works like a brush, so you can have a soft or hard edge, and it will blur specific parts. Sharpen will sharpen specific images, so if you took a blurry picture, it's a way of sharpening the edges of your image, and smudge tool will basically smudge the image in between. We have our dodge, burn and sponge tool, which will work very similar. Dodge will help us to lighten specific colors of an area. Burn will allow us to darken specific areas, and sponge will saturate or desaturate depending on how you do it, so it'll take or put more color into your images. Okay. Then we have, folks, our pen brush, which is used for drawing shapes or selections. It's quite a complex tool, something that's used in Illustrator a lot, but not as much in Photoshop. It's one of those tools you either love or you hate. Some people prefer to actually just use the selection tools, and some people prefer to use the pen tool instead. So, folks, obviously going with today's lesson, you know yourself, quick type in what you would like to see so I can demonstrate it for you. I'm going to jump to my Photoshop. I'll open up a different image. I'll start closing down these ones, and we'll get some new images to work with. So I do have this lovely lass here, so we may as well open her up. Blur and sharpen. Okay, absolutely not a problem. Pen tool, blur, dodge and burn coming in there. Samantha's asking for a blur tool, so I'll show the blur tool here, I suppose. Blur tool is just here. Okay, and folks, it literally, as we press on our images, it'll blur it. So I'm going to zoom in very quickly. As I paint on top of it, it blurs the image. So bit by bit, you can see that this is obviously clearly a lot more blurry than the image beside it. So I'm literally painting blur on top of our image here. And it's a good way of giving depth of field to your images. But I'm blurring this here with my mouse as if it's a brush. Okay? And I'm just blurring it on top. And so you can see the difference there, folks, hopefully. Anushu, Irene, Mamua, and Stephen all coming in with the kind of dodge and burn tools. So that's fine. We can use... This lady's actually quite good for the dodge and burn tools, folks. So dodge and burn are quite fun. So what we can do, say we have our burn tool here, folks, and you're out tanning yourself all day, but you're not happy with how the tan looks. We can take... I'm going to put this at about 50%. We can take this tool... Works much like a brush again, folks. Change the hardness or the size or the angle if needed. But I can literally paint on top of this girl. Remove that shine that's on her face. So just in case everybody didn't see that. See this light shine here? Let's darken it. And I'm literally just using my mouse to paint it. But I can literally paint a tan on top of this girl. So let's make her hands darker. And we give her another coat. Make her look a little bit like an Oompa Loompa. We'll make her look that extra orangey kind of tone here. And we go over the face again. And we've just darkened her entire skin tone. Dodge and burn is... And it doesn't have to be used for skin tone, folks. Dodge and burn will work on anything. So, like, we can darken the side of the building here. Of the mountain. So we can darken how the grass is. We can darken the sky. Okay. And then its counterpart is obviously the dodge tool. And the dodge tool will allow us to do the exact same. So I'm going to put this back at its usual 50%. I'm going to press the square brackets to up my size of the brush. And we're going to just lighten the skin tone. So we'll make her brighter than she normally was, folks. And again, this is just on me on the skin tones. It will work on the background. It will work on the sky. It'll work on our hair. Okay, if you want to lighten those tones of the hair. And of course, as you overdo it, folks, you know, colors will start to look a bit weird. But we can do it again and again and again by just clicking our mouse until we burn the pixels out. Jordan, obviously midtones, shadows and highlights do exactly what you might think. The midtones will affect the midtones of the image. So where the actual major colors are, shadows are darker colors and highlights are brighter colors. So if you're only trying to affect specific ones, do change that. But again, folks, yeah, Serena coming in there saying, if you want to save on fake tan, feel free to do it that way. Okay, so we're just going to move on with that, folks. Don't worry if we missed any tools that you wanted to see. Majority of these tools, folks, are going to be covered in later lessons. So we have our text tool. Is pretty much what you might expect, folks. It works like anything like Microsoft Word. We can change the style of the text. We can, change the size of it, the color of it, and everything else. path selection tool, which works very well with our pen tool. It selects, and it works well with our shape tools. It selects specific areas in relation to shape and everything like that, but it's not a selection tool, much like our marquee or lasso. Shape tool, if you want to go down the graphical route, very easy way of creating custom kind of circles, custom squares, custom shapes, whatever you wanted to do. Hand tool, which is used for moving around your image very quickly. I have some nice shortcuts. I actually will demonstrate that in a second. And we have our zoom tool, which again, folks, is for zooming in and out. Okay, so again, feel free to type in for me there, folks. But I'm definitely going to show you the zoom tool. So the zoom tool, folks, obviously is this tool here. It's said for the keyboards or zoom. It makes us zoom into our images so we can do very fine editing. We can also zoom out by holding Alt or hitting the minus up here. So we can zoom out so we can see our images from whatever style we want to see it from. But the joys of using the zoom tool is that we can use it with the hand tool very quickly. So once we're zoomed in, we can use the hand tool to very quickly get around our image and check for like sharpness, check for dodgy colors, and little bits that need to be edited. Okay? With that in mind, folks, some shortcuts that I want you to understand. To zoom in and out very quickly, hold your control or command on your laptop, okay, or PC, and you basically just will zoom in and out. So control with plus and minus, or command with plus and minus. Spacebar will give you the hand, so I can use any tool. If I'm on my brush tool, I can come in here and I can use the spacebar, and I don't move away from my brush tool. So I can paint, and then I can move away. I can zoom out. As we can see, so my brush is quite big. But I can paint in here, move around, paint down here, move around, paint over here. So it's a quick way of working on what you need to do. Okay. Yeah, Jordan's in there with the spacebar. Thank you very much, Jordan. So you obviously have realized that. In terms of shapes tools, folks, they're all here. You can make a rectangle, ellipse, polygon, line tool, customize shape. Actually, with the customize shape tool, folks, you will see that it's different. So if I want to make a rectangle, I will literally draw a rectangle. Okay? It works very similar to what you might expect. It works like a rectangle. So just make sure this is on shape. So there's my white rectangle. If I come in here and I make a circle, I can hold shift and make a perfect circle. There's my white circle. If I come in here and go to my custom shape tool, I have a full list of shapes that are pre-made. And you can actually make your own in Photoshop if you're going to use them a lot. If you do not see this full collection that's default with majority of the Photoshop versions, come to this cogwheel and press on all. This will give you all of these shapes, so you can make whatever you want. Okay? Now, I'm going to close that down, folks, and we're going to jump back to our slides. Now, I know we didn't get to go through all the tools, folks, but obviously I still want to cover workspaces. If I did miss anything, we can try do a little bit again in the Q&A if I have a bit of time. Other than that, I will see what I can do for you. But we will be covering 90% of those tools again in our later lessons. So you're going to get to see them again and again and again. Perfect, okay. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to basically, text tool and shape tool, because I can see people are asking, are shape tools vectors? They basically are. The shape tool is a vector, but that'll be covered in lesson 4 in great detail again, folks. So, folks, has anybody ever heard or used workspaces before? Okay, workspaces were introduced into the kind of later versions of Photoshop. So not every single one of you will have these options, but they're nice to know since they are there. So workspaces will be introduced, I think it's CS4 onwards. Few people are saying yes, few people are saying no. And they come in handy, folks. They definitely do. Now, majority of us will be using Essentials. And the Essentials workspace is every tool that you can think of on your toolbar already. As you can see that it has all of these nice little icons around here, meaning that there's other tools underneath the one that you see. That's basically what it means. So if we hold our mouse down on top of it, we'll find the other ones. Now, with that in mind, folks, obviously we have then other ones. We have our graphic and web, which will emphasize on more shapes. We have photography, painting, motion and animation, and 3D. So our graphic and webs, folks, as I said, focuses more on the shapes. And these are the ones that are the newest kind of version of workspaces. Some of you might have different names for ones that you have if you've got older versions. Our photography will basically highlight our shape tool, or our healing tools. So quite a nice one to use if you are a photographer and you do a lot of image editing. Painting, if you're doing a lot of digital painting, it will emphasize on our colors, our brush tools, and it'll emphasize on the dodge, burn, and sponge. Okay, blur and sharpen. Again, these are really ones that you want in your painting. And then our motion and animation is just the same as essentials. We don't need to worry about that. If you're here for 3D, which means that you have to have CC, you will see that some of the options change as well. Okay. Now, they're not for everybody, folks, and I use photography a lot myself, but I actually customize my own one. A lot of you will stick with essentials because it's the easiest to use, and it's something that just grows and you get attached to because you're so used to using it. But because there is so many different types, I wanted to bring it back to the assumption of the 3 categories that I split you all up into. So obviously, if you are a photographer, folks, you're going to use the photography workspace. If you are an enthusiast, you're going to stick with essentials until you move into either the more photography base or designer base. And if you're a designer, you would use the graphic and web, photography, or create your own custom one as well. Workspaces are, once again, folks, they're not in all versions of Photoshop, so don't expect to find them in Elements if you have it, because Elements, again, is the essentials. You'll have the essential keyboard and you'll be stuck to that default just in case you are using Photoshop Elements, okay? Now, I'm just going to quickly jump into Photoshop here, folks, because I do want to demonstrate workspaces and how to customize Photoshop. So I'm going to open up an image. Doesn't matter too much. This is the one that we've been that we've seen myself work on previously. So this is my Essentials workspace here. I have changed it a small bit. Just a small bit, okay? But this is my Essentials, and every tool is hidden in this dashboard, okay? In the interface that we can see here. So every tool is here for us. But maybe if I wanted to change it, I would go up to Workspaces in the top right-hand corner. This is where we can see that we have plenty of other options. So let's go to the photography one, because there's a lot of photographers on with us today, folks. As you can see, the difference in this is that my toolbar has changed. My spot healing tool, my healing tool, patch tool, red eye, and content aware move are no longer hidden underneath each other. They're all out in the open. So if I hold Shift and J, we can actually see them change. Keep an eye on the toolbar over here, folks. Shift and J. And I can flick through them very quickly. Okay? So again, if you're a photographer, this is a nice way to have it. But everything changes, folks. Everything here changes as well. In our panels, our toolbar. And that's the idea of being able to customize everything. So if we go to back to our essentials, because majority of us will use essentials for the first while, what we can do is we can customize Photoshop to suit us. If you don't like your toolbar on the left, we can drag it and we can leave it on the right. If you want it bang in the middle in your line of visual, you can leave it there. It doesn't matter where you push it. You can put it wherever you want. You can hit this little icon and you can make it a 2-bar, or you can hit it to stretch it out, or we can completely close it down and not have a toolbar. Now, that's obviously something that I don't recommend, because we obviously need access to our tools. But the reason I do that, folks, is to show you in case it ever happens to you. In case you accidentally hit that X and freak out because you've just gotten rid of all your tools. No need to worry. If you come up to Window, we have a list here. From 3D to tool presets, we have a full list of everything that we can customize Photoshop with. So down here, we're just going to open up our tools again. And here's my toolbar. I'm going to put it back on the right-hand side, folks. But as you can see, I have a lot of different options here that you might not have. I have history, I have actions, I have that's our info panel, navigator, okay, our brushes, our paragraphs for our text tools. I have a lot more than you probably see. And if you want to find on any of these, folks, all you have to do is go to Window. So you can see now our paragraph is here. So I can remove my paragraph. I can come out here and I can get rid of it. I don't need it. It's gone. It's no longer here. But if I want, I can bring it back. Paragraph. And I can adjust it. I can throw it over here. You can see the blue line is going to slot it in. I can bring other stuff over there. So let's say we bring our brush tools over. And I can put this in here. And again, I have my brush tools. So we can customize it to suit the way you want everything to look. I'm going to bring my paragraph back over, folks. I get a bit OCD about how I like it to look. But the joys of it is, if you want to stretch it out longer, we can. If you want to change this, we can. You can give yourself as much space as you need for everything. If you're unhappy with how it looks, we just come back up to our workspaces and we reset Essentials. Okay? Again, up to yourself, folks, whatever way you want everything to look. I'm going to get rid of libraries. I've reset it. I don't use my libraries too much, so I'm going to get rid of that. And you can see that I've lost all of the things that I usually have. So we go to Windows, and we will just basically open up our paragraph. It's still there. We'll open the window, and we'll go to our brush tools. And now I've added them in. And if I need anything else, I will do the same from here. Now, if you have a newer version of Photoshop, you can do a little bit more. Now, it's not recommended, folks, that you change shortcuts, but it is possible. So if we go to Edit and Toolbar, we get this icon here. We have Toolbar and Extra Tools. And as we can see, all of my tools are here because we're using Essentials. But I can change the actual shortcuts to suit myself. I only recommend you do this if you know what you're doing. But it's very easy to change individual tools you know you're going to use a lot to any key on the keyboard that you want to use. Now, going to cancel that, and folks, I'm going to show you our photography here, okay? And we're going to do the exact same. We're going to go to Edit, and we're going to go to Toolbar. So the difference between our Essentials and our photography is that not all of the tools are found in our actual photography workspace. So we can see that we have other tools here. So by default, folks, if you're using a similar version to myself, your red eye tool actually won't be part of it. It'll be over here. Okay? And I find that the red eye tool, especially when it comes to touching your photographs up, is a very easy tool to use and quite a valuable one. So why not have it in here if you're using the photography? Go into Edit, go to Tools, or Toolbar, and just drag it in and put it with the other tools. Change the shortcut if you want, but I would just leave it here. So we can add in any of these tools that we think we're going to use a lot, and we can make our own custom toolbar. When you've done that, if you come back up to your workspace and hit New Workspace, you can save it, and you will have all of your tools, everything that you've put in here, everything. If you've stretched this out, if you've moved your toolbar from the left to the right, sure, we'll do it. We'll move the toolbar from the left to the right here. We'll put it in here. We will then move this over here. Okay. And what we'll do, folks, is we'll go New Workspace. Okay. And we'll call it Lesson 2. We'll hit Save. I will change to my Essentials. So here we are with my Essentials, folks. Or we'll change back to Lesson 2, our customized one. And you can see my toolbar is over here. This is over here. And I've changed it to the way that I want it to look. No longer like it, change back to Essentials. Come up here and go Delete Workspace. And we'll delete Lesson 2. And it's gone. But the idea is that we can customize pretty much everything in Photoshop. We can customize the workspace to how it looks. So this is our workspace. But we can customize what panels we want. Okay. We can customize the shortcuts. And I suppose something that I don't usually show, folks, but just in case you want to do it, we can customize the color. So if we go to Preferences, Edit, Preferences, or Control and K. Okay. We can come in here and we can actually change how the interface looks. So we can make it darker, we can make it brighter, we can make it a nice shade of grey. This is the original Photoshop colour for the older people. This is what they stick with now. But there is, depending on obviously your own eyesight and everything like that, you can customise the colour of it. Okay, and I'll just cancel that because I don't want to change it. Now, with that in mind, folks, I am going to go into a Q&A in a moment, and we can look back over anything that you think that you need to kind of get back